The real fountain of youth exists. It's something you have access to for free right now, and very few people know how vitally important it is to decreasing your risk of developing all of the common diseases of aging that make you live less as you get older. Focus on this one thing and you'll benefit all of the other aspects of your health that tend to decline with age. All of them. It's not easy, but it is fun, and the rewards are huge. If you're a woman in your 40s or 50s who'd like to increase her muscle mass but isn't sure where to even start, send me a message at healthcouragecollective@gmail.com or message me through my website, www.healthcouragecollective.com. I have some ideas for you. I know you can create the kind of future that you're excited about. You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 190, The Real Fountain of Youth. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello. How are you today? I hope you have had a great week. How have you been thinking about body positivity and the necessity of a healthy body weight this past week? I hope seeing unconditional body acceptance and the importance of a healthy waist circumference as not mutually exclusive. I hope it's helpful. And remembering the real definition of fitness. Today we're going to talk about the actual fountain of youth. When I was in 5th grade, I had to do a big class report about Juan Ponce de Leon. He was born to a Spanish noble family in 1460 and was a page to the royal court of Aragon. He later became a soldier and might have gone with Christopher Columbus on his second voyage to the West Indies. He explored and lived in Puerto Rico and was told about a magical fountain of youth that would regenerate you if you drank from it. The fountain of youth was supposedly located on an island called Bimini. So in 1513, Ponce de Leon led an expedition from Puerto Rico to what he thought was the island of Bimini. They landed there around Easter, which is pronounced Pascua Florida in Spanish. I probably pronounced that wrong. And it had such florid vegetation that he called the land Florida. It obviously wasn't an island, but he didn't know that. He landed near modern-day St. Augustine in Florida. He didn't go back to find the fountain and establish a colony there on the island of Bimini, which was really Florida, until 8 years later in 1521. He brought 200 people and horses, tools, and seeds with him so that they could create a colony there. Ponce was fatally wounded by an arrow in his thigh in a Native American attack shortly after his arrival in July of 1521, and died soon after his comrades sailed him, wounded, to Havana, Cuba, where he died. His remains were brought back to Puerto Rico and are still in the San Juan Cathedral there. So, because he died, he never found the Fountain of Youth, and because it doesn't exist. Wah, wah. But there's something pretty close. It's the most magical thing we've got. It's fabulous and underappreciated and affects all areas of aging and age-related decline. All of them. All the things that will kill you or make you slowly stop living, i.e. cardiovascular diseases like heart attacks, strokes, and heart failure, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and other dementias, and Parkinson's disease, all cancers, and the thing that drives all of those things, metabolic dysfunction, which involves being resistant to your own insulin and having high insulin and high blood sugar levels. Access to the real fountain of youth is clinically proven to decrease all-cause morbidity and all-cause mortality, meaning being diseased for any reason and being dead for any reason. The actual fountain of youth is the tie that binds all of the important pieces of longevity and health span together. It's what puts more years lived in good health into your future. If you work with me, I consider it one of the top biomarkers to be evaluated and tracked as we work together to ensure that you are creating the kind of future that you're excited to step into. But very few medical and health and wellness providers measure, track, or attempt to impact it. What a shame. A big shame. If everyone treated the real fountain of youth with the reverence it deserves, we wouldn't be spending 17% of our gross domestic product on healthcare, 90% of which is on managing chronic conditions. We wouldn't think it's normal to have to slowly fade away and spend all of our time and money in our later years on medical appointments and procedures and the 11 daily prescriptions that we've been given. If there were a drug that could do all of the things this fountain of youth could do, it would be way bigger than semaglutide or tirzepatide. Everyone would benefit from it. I might advocate for putting it in the water, but for some reason I'm imagining this fictional drug as an implant you would get, like the tracker capsule they inject into people with a big futuristic looking gun in dystopian type shows. I would want one. The real fountain of youth is your biggest endocrine organ. It secretes amazingly beneficial hormones and is anti-inflammatory. It sucks up glucose without the requirement for more insulin, keeping you metabolically healthy because your blood glucose can stay down in normal levels without having to increase your insulin to get it there. Pretty cool. Being metabolically healthy reduces all chances of other chronic diseases. The real fountain of youth is a storage depot for the building blocks your body needs immediate access to if you're ever injured or ill. It is intimately tied to the total number of mitochondria you have in your body, which determines how much energy you have available to you. It improves your immune system, both increasing immunity against foreign invaders and decreasing chances of your immune system overreacting and thus causing autoimmune problems. Plus, it's more enjoyable to live in a body that contains a robust fountain of youth. Do you want to get the weird injection with me yet? Luckily, you don't need to. As you might have guessed by the fact that the real fountain of youth is an endocrine organ, you already have it inside of you. How youthful it will keep you is up to you, because it's the only organ that you have such very direct control over. You can influence the health of your pancreas, adrenal glands, and hypothalamus in subtle ways, but you have almost absolute voluntary control over the health and size of your skeletal muscle, the real fountain of youth. Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, who I love, says that muscle mass should be an endpoint on its own, an independent biomarker of overall health and resilience. Do you know how much skeletal muscle you have? Have you ever had a medical practitioner measure yours to get a sense of your overall risk of long-term health problems? If so, hold on to that practitioner for dear life because it's highly unusual and very progressive. If you work with me, it's one of the first things we're going to check and work on if we need to. There are lots of components that are all required if you want to live more as you get older, but muscle mass ties them all together. The resilience you get from having lots of protein storage on your body available in case repairs are needed. The huge energy benefits you get from having highly functional and plentiful mitochondria powering your brain and emotions and heart and immune cells and ovaries and eyes and everything. The giant advantage it is to have something inside of you that sucks up glucose all the time before it can start damaging everything. The improvement to your immune function and, of course, the necessity for strength and power to move through the world on your own without falling down. And hopefully a lot more than that, like to hike up a mountain or go kite surfing or move lumber in your wood shop or whatever makes you happy. As Dr. Lyon explains very well in her book Forever Strong, improving this single biomarker, your total body muscle mass, will improve all of your health outcomes, especially those related to aging well. If you want to age at an elite level, you need above average muscle mass. Whether you like lifting weights or you think you hate it or you're intimidated by it or you've never done it before, you will have worse long-term outcomes if you are not adequately muscled. You will never ever get to your 80s and wish you had less muscle. Apart from very extreme cases who are women I'm confident are not listening to this podcast, you will never have too much muscle mass right now either. There is a caveat that the muscle mass you have needs to be healthy muscle. Muscle you've still managed to hold on to but has been infiltrated with fat like a marbled steak doesn't give you the same advantages. Marbled muscles can happen if you receive more calories than you use and are sedentary. Damaged muscle doesn't sense nutrients as well, respond as well to exercise, or recover as well after activity. So we want more muscle, but it needs to be healthy muscle. In another fantastic book, Good Energy by Dr. Casey Means, she says, muscle contraction is medicine. I love it. What if your doctor wrote a prescription on their little pad for muscle contractions for you? That would be awesome. It would actually fix the root cause of so many problems instead of just masking the symptoms. Plus, it's free, it's fun, and all the side effects are good. Unless you don't like being sore from workouts like I do. But it's an acquired taste that I'm confident that you could learn to be proud of. We've talked a lot before about how our bodies are literally created to move frequently. That's what they're designed for. We talked a lot about it in episode 83, Sedentary Exercisers. Dr. Means says a body where muscles are contracting regularly, even at low intensities or for short periods, is experiencing totally different physiology than a body in which the muscles are worked for only one time block per day, no matter how intense that time block. End quote. You want to have the physiology where muscles are required to contract hundreds of times a day. Set a timer and stand up from your chair every 20 minutes. That's it. It's so easy. Just butt off the chair, and you'll feel way better at the end of the day. Take a few short walks during the day. Do a few push-ups at lunchtime and a few air squats at dinner time. Something, anything. It really, really, really matters. Lots of studies show that people randomized to do the exact same amount of the exact same kind of exercise have very different metabolic outcomes, i.e. ability to control their blood sugar more tightly, the more the exercise is split up throughout the day. So jogging for an hour versus 2 jogs of 30 minutes each versus 10 jogs of 3 minutes each clearly shows that more movement sessions is way better. Actually, I think that study was actually 60 jogs of 1 minute each. I can't remember, but there have been lots of studies like that, and it's not to say that there aren't benefits to possessing the kind of endurance that allows you to jog for 1 solid hour, because there absolutely are. The point is just that it doesn't exonerate you from having to continue to move your body in some way throughout the other 15 hours of the day. Your physiology will still suffer from sedentariness, even if you were very active for one portion of the day. When muscles contract, they prompt calcium entry into cells and deplete ATP, which is the cellular energy, telling the cells to process more glucose or fat to be able to make more ATP. There's a magical molecule called AMPK that's like an energy sensor in cells that stimulates creation of new mitochondria, the recycling of old dysfunctional mitochondria into new baby mitochondria, and the uptake of glucose. I think I could pretty easily write a podcast called The Real Fountain of Youth and make the case that mitochondria are the fountain of youth. If you remember, scientists can take samples from random people and pretty accurately guess how old the people are based on how many functional mitochondria they have in their cells. More and better functioning mitochondria help you prevent and drastically delay all of the diseases that are most likely to make you stop living before you die. But muscle mass and muscle health and muscle endurance are very strongly tied to the number and health of mitochondria that you have. I also think I could make a strong case that metabolic health, or your body's ability to appropriately process the fuel you give it, is the real fountain of youth. When your cells start struggling to take up glucose and put it to work effectively, you start developing all of the chronic conditions that are so common these days. But muscle mass and health are very strongly tied to your ability to deal with glucose like a boss. Or, I guess I should say, like a kid, a healthy kid. Many muscle contractions throughout the day really do prevent consumed fuel from gumming up the works and messing up the smooth operation of our metabolic machinery. Having enough muscles and contracting those muscles also releases myokines, these little proteins that can support cognitive function, memory, and mood, and dilate your blood vessels, burn fat, create new muscles, and impact both the innate and adaptive branches of the immune system. IL-6 mostly comes from steady-state cardio-type exercises, and IL-15 mostly comes from resistance training. Both of them reduce your baseline white blood cell count, which reduces your risk for heart diseases, but they also improve your immune response to foreign invaders. Autoimmune diseases are also more prevalent in people who do not exercise. The presence of healthy muscle tissue elevates regulatory T cells and induces anti-inflammatory responses that help keep the immune system from overreacting and doing something crazy like attacking your own cells. Muscle is like a regulatory switch that keeps the immune system in a Goldilocks zone. It's well known that burn victims require way more protein in their diet than usual to be able to repair their body. But other injuries and illnesses also require a lot of protein to repair, and having a suit of armor on your body made of protein is like gold if you ever want to recover more quickly from whatever life throws your way. So it really helps with acute diseases and injuries. But since muscle is an anti-inflammatory hormone-secreting organ, it can also help with reducing the inflammation that's so commonly associated with all of the long-term health problems that plague modern society, like cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, arthritis, chronic pain, and most other things you can think of. Muscle makes your life better. The more, the merrier. Two things can happen to muscle: anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism is the building of new muscle. You've probably heard of the term anabolic steroids. That's to build more muscle. Catabolism is the breakdown of muscle. Just like bone constantly breaking down and being reformed, we always have some degree of both going on with our muscles. But if we want access to the fountain of youth, we need to be able to push toward anabolism until we have adequate muscle and then hold on to that muscle. The three main things that affect our anabolism versus catabolism ratio are hormone signals, protein intake, and training stimulus. When we're kids, teenagers, and young adults, a lot of our muscle growth just comes from hormones. Kids especially don't need regimented minimum amounts of protein or obsessive resistance training schedules because they've got growth hormones taking care of their anabolism. Catabolism, or muscle breakdown, accelerates as we get older, starting in our 30s, actually. That means that if we want to maintain muscle mass, we have to use those anabolic levers to push toward enough anabolism to counteract the catabolism. And if we're under-muscled, which most women are, we need to be even more vigilant. Unless you're going to take growth hormone injections, that leaves you with two options. Get your protein consumption dialed in and get your training stimulus dialed in. Losing muscle mass as we age is pretty much universal, again, starting in our 30s, but something that I heard from muscle and nutrition expert Lane Norton that I thought was super fascinating is that while humans universally lose muscle as they age, it's not because it's coded into our biology. It's not inevitable. It's the result of decreased training stimulus and decreased protein consumption. I guess it is coded into our biology to lose the hormone stimulus. He didn't mention that, but his point was that if we can maintain the directives to our muscles to stick around by maintaining our protein intake and our training stimulus, we don't have to become sarcopenic, which is the term for having low muscle mass and being weak. Sarcopenic people are obviously much weaker and frailer and unable to carry or transfer loads or do anything very physically demanding. But they also are much less metabolically healthy and at a much higher risk for cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative diseases, cancer, mental health challenges, chronic pain, and pretty much everything else that you don't want to have happen to you. They're more inflamed and they have less energy. They almost certainly have low bone density because you need muscles pulling hard on your bones to make them strong. Muscle is the key to longevity, the real fountain of youth. One place to focus your effort that pays dividends in all of the different areas of health and wellness that matter to you. A way to kill 8 birds with one stone. It's the biggest and best life hack you will ever come across. Plus, living in a body with plentiful skeletal muscle is so much more fun. You can do whatever you want. Well, except sit all day, I suppose, but who wants to do that anyway? There are specific doses of protein you need to reach to give your body the build muscle signal, and older people do tend to absorb less protein from what they eat. So that's something to consider. A lot of it has to do with the leucine threshold, which is one of the amino acids in protein. Email me at healthcouragecollective@gmail.com if you want to talk more about that. I can give you a ton of resources. Just know that getting 5 grams here and 12 grams there and 9 grams over there throughout the day is not going to tell your muscles to grow. So you have to be intentional with your protein doses. I can help you with that, and the benefits are enormous. And of course, you have to train in a way that demands performance from your muscles. They get stronger so that they can do the hard thing you've asked of them again next time. Perimenopause is an optimal time to get serious about your muscle mass. You'll navigate the challenges of menopause so much better with more muscle on your body. The main thing I hope you remember from this episode is that we're all bombarded with information all day, every day about obesity. The obesity epidemic, the dangers of being overweight, obesity is shortening our lives, obesity is causing a health crisis. And I don't like how overweight now is just a term instead of a description, because it didn't used to be. You used to talk about being overweight. But now it's correct to say someone has overweight, like the dangers of overweight or having high blood pressure and overweight. It feels grammatically wrong and I don't like it. But anyway, we're all told all day, every day that overweight and obesity, see, doesn't sound right, are killing us and destined to bankrupt the country. Besides the fact that all of this shouting isn't helping the population slim down at all, I think we're focusing on the wrong problem. As Dr. Gabrielle Lyon makes the case for so well in her book Forever Strong, being over fat is much less dangerous than being under-muscled. The loss of muscle is a bigger health span problem than the accumulation of fat is. That's what I'm hoping you remember. Yes, too much fat, especially visceral fat and ectopic fat in your muscles, is bad for you. I'm not saying that it's not, but it's just part of the overall problem of not having enough healthy muscle. If you focus first on getting to a healthy amount of muscle, all of your other health span problems, including excess body fat, will decrease. Plus, it's so much funner to focus on adding awesomeness to your body instead of trying to decrease hideousness, or however we think about fat. I think so much of what we're told is how bad we are for being overweight. We're part of the nationwide problem and we need to lose weight and we need to restrict ourselves and buckle down and have some willpower and become less of ourselves so we're not unsatisfactory people. But the real truth is that what we need is a little more focus on becoming more of who we are, accepting the call to adventure, rising to physical challenges, and making sure we get enough protein and calories to fuel muscle growth. Joyfully doing hard things that literally make us stronger and more capable. Developing new abilities and watching ourselves progress. Doesn't that feel so much more delightful? It's also way more effective at improving our health span, and it's clinically proven to decrease all-cause morbidity and all-cause mortality. The real fountain of youth isn't something you need to go find in Florida. It's something you need to create within yourself. The best way to put more years lived in good health into your future is to have an abnormally high amount of skeletal muscle on your body. Focus on improving your muscle mass and you'll prevent or drastically delay all of the common diseases of aging and have way more fun along the way. Thank you so much for being here today. Next week, we're going to talk about the military tactic that will improve your future. Until then, give your muscles the hard work to do that they crave and they'll be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.